Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. My name is Eric Vogel. I'm a real estate investor, mastermind coach, husband to an amazing woman, and often my co-host, Tiffany, and father to two incredible boys. I'm on a mission to help you become a real estate investor and not only achieve seven-figure success like my wife and I did, but to do so with intention, direction, and clarity. If you want to transform your financial and personal goals, become the version of yourself you've always wanted, and reach your dream life ASAP, then you're in the right place. Thank you for deciding to hit that play button today. Now let's begin. What if I told you there was a way to have 80% fewer properties than you initially thought you needed, and you could generate enough cash flow to replace your income? Would you believe me? This may seem crazy, but it's real. And my wife and I have been using this strategy for the past 4 years in addition to our single and multi-family portfolio. In this episode, we talk with Blake Lewis from Padsplit, where you can rent your home by the room and generate higher cash flow with fewer properties. Stay tuned to discover this somewhat hidden gem to triple or quadruple your cash flow. I encourage you to go on YouTube, as there are many visual aids that go along. The link to that will be in the show notes. I hope y'all are doing well today. We have an awesome coffee hour lined up for you, and we are excited to be bringing on Blake Lewis from Padsplit. This morning, she's going to be able to answer your questions on what do Padsplits look like, what income can they produce, how do you transform your rental properties into Padsplits, how in the world can you make money in today's market? Well, the answer is here. The answer about how to, make cash flowing properties happen in today's market. Without further ado, let's bring on Blake Lewis. Good morning, Blake, and welcome to Investor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you today?
Doing great,
Oh, wonderful.
Not
wonderful.
Raining, so happy to be here.
That's right. First off, I love to start, especially coffee hour, with what's happened to you this week. What's great? What's good? What's cooking with you?
Let's see. So I had a great in-person meetup last night in Atlanta with some local future Padsplit hosts. So that was great. And I'm really happy because tennis season is in full swing. So I have multiple tennis matches going on. So it's a good time of year.
Awesome. Very, very good. All right. So what's going on with me on my side of the world? We have been doing our best to make Investor Connect happen. We're doing our best to grow Investor Connect. And also my wife and I, we've got a 4-month-old. Well, in 4 days, he's going to be 5 months old. So we're struggling to find sleep in this unique season of life, but we're blessed beyond measure, and we're thankful for it.
Well, thank you so much. So what is Padsplit? We are the marketplace for privatized affordable housing. What does that mean? Stick around and find out. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Blake. I'm the sales manager at Padsplit. I joined the company 3.5 years ago when we were a team of about 25. We now have over 120 people working. So while I was wearing a lot of hats before, the good news is as you go through your Padsplit journey, there's always someone to help you. So I work with investors to get them started. Then we have an onboarding team, and then we have a host success and account management team for everything you need after your property is live. For me, my whole career has been spent just working with investors and business owners, really just like to know kind of what motivates people. What motivates me and the reason I'm at Padsplit is twofold. One, I love real estate. It's what my dad does and what my granddad did, but also our social mission is really important to me. And our mission is to help provide financial independence to low and middle income workers using housing as a vehicle of stability. Outside of work, it is officially March, so I can say Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Kansas, and my husband and I are lucky enough to have a ton of nieces and nephews, and while we shouldn't have a favorite, we do, so I included a picture of our favorite niece, Anna. Our motto here at Padsplit is to do good and do well. And what I mean by that is do good, create safe, affordable housing for working class people, and do well, make more money than you would through traditional rentals. We started about 5 years ago. We've served over 12,000 members. That's what we call our residents. We're in 9 cities across the country. We have over 6,000 active bedrooms. And like I mentioned, over 100 people working every day. And the mission of every employee here is to help solve the affordable housing shortage, one room at a time. I want to introduce you to Kiosha. Kiosha is a Padsplit member. She was attending graduate school in Atlanta, couldn't afford a place for herself and her kids. So her kids were living 2 hours away, 3 hours away with her mom. As she moved into a pad split, was able to pay down debt and save money. And then after about 9 months in a pad split, she was able to purchase her own home and bring her kids back up to Atlanta and have her family living under one roof, just like everyone, would like to do. And her story is not unique. There are so many people across the country that can't afford a basic studio apartment, so they're left with some pretty undesirable options. So in Atlanta, for example, studio apartments go for like $1,200 or $1,400. You have to make 3 times that, plus have a 650 credit score. And there's just a lot of people that don't have that. So across America, we're talking about 15 million people. In Metro Atlanta, for example, we're talking about 150,000 people that's making under 40K a year and are single. Another thing that is difficult for a lot of people is the upfront cost and the long-term lease agreement. At a pad split, the barrier to entry is much lower. You're essentially committing to 31 days upfront and then renewing weekly after that. That said, the average stay is 9.5 months. So the cost of pad split being more affordable and the flexibility are the main reasons our residents are choosing pad split. We also don't require a minimum credit score versus an apartment where it's around 650. That said, we are a mission-oriented company. So one of the things we do is we report all of the on-time weekly payments to help members improve their credit score. And typically we're seeing about an 80-point credit score improvement after a few months in a pad split. So yeah, that's sort of who we're serving. A little bit more about our members. The average age is 35. Most people are making around $30,000. 90% of the people that stay in a pad split are earning less than $55,000. Everyone pretty much has a full-time job. Most people do not work from home. And the most important thing I like to see here is that 91% of people staying in a pad split would recommend it to a friend or family member. So how does this work? On the resident side, we offer something that is affordable and flexible. We make it easier to qualify, and then we provide lots of choices. On the investor side, pad split leads to more income. We manage the collections for you. We also manage all of the marketing and the background checks to get people approved to live in your home, making sure that everyone in your home either has a full-time job or pays 12 weeks up front and has passed our screening. So what does exactly it look like? How is it that you can make housing more affordable for people in the community while also making more revenue for the investor? And the secret is to take underutilized space and turn it into income generating space. So on the left, you see a house that's in Decatur, Georgia, that was a 4-bedroom home being rented to a couple that was paying $2,000 a month. When that couple moved out, the investor turned this home into a 7-bedroom pad split where each person is paying about $700 a month, $700 to $750 a month. So he's bringing in over $5,000 in income. So what you'll see is the dining room and living room both get converted to common areas. And then a really large bedroom, in this case, got turned into 2 rooms. The reasons we encourage the conversion of common areas are twofold. So for the investor side, for every room that you're able to create, you're going to be adding anywhere from $600 to $800 in revenue, depending on the market and the size of the room. So for you as the investor, you make more money when you convert the common areas. But converting common areas also is a better experience for the people staying in your house. Because in a pad split, when people don't necessarily all know each other and everyone has like a different work schedule, if you have a common area, what inevitably happens is people are noisy while others need to sleep, or that space gets used for storage or trash, or someone has the idea to let a friend who hasn't passed our background check and isn't paying potentially use that space and crash there. So when you convert the common areas, it really is a win-win for everyone. Some people might be thinking a little bit like, oh, how does this compare to Airbnb? And one of the things I like to mention is that Airbnb is fractional in terms of time, and that some of the time you have people in your rental and you're making some really nice returns. And then some of the time you have no one in the property and you're earning nothing. In a pad split, it's fractional because we're breaking up the space, but you're always going to have income coming in and you're always going to have, someone in your home. If this sounds good and you're thinking, how do I go about doing this? Essentially, the process kind of goes like this. Getting started is having a couple calls with me or someone in a role similar to mine, where we walk you through all the ins and outs of pad splits, the numbers, the types of homes that make sense, any vendors you'll need, everything like that. From there, typically people are going out to acquire property. So that means working with a realtor who has a good idea of what makes a good pad split, and then purchasing the home. Almost always, whether you already have an asset or you're going out and purchasing one, renovations are required. So like we just saw, that usually means putting up additional walls. That might mean turning a half bathroom into a whole bathroom, those types of things. So you go through the renovation process, and just like realtors, pad split, and then markets we're active in, we have experienced vendors for every step of the puzzle. So realtors, contractors, property managers, lenders, photographers, insurance providers, we have solutions for you. So we would also introduce you to a contractor. Then when the contractor is finishing up the work, you'll prepare the home, meaning you'll make sure the Wi-Fi is set up, you'll get the home staged and photographed, and you'll create the listing on our site. Once you create the listing on our site, then you meet with our onboarding team who is going to meet with you to give you all the trainings you need to be a great host, whether that means a host that's going to self-manage and do the stuff at the property yourselves, or even just a more passive host like a lot of investors are, to understand things like the financials and the occupancy and what is available in our platform. And then once the property is, validated as meeting our standards, it can go live and you'll start earning income. Typically in most of our markets, we're seeing a first booking within about 6 days and an 80% full house in about 30 days or less, depending on the market. And then at the 90-day point, your property is very stabilized because, the people have moved in, they like each other, they like the convenience to work, they like the savings, and they stay. And then kind of from there, you have, pretty long tenure. So like I was mentioning before, the average stay is about 9.5 months. So that's a pretty good amount of time. Here's a case study. I'm happy to share this deck out, after the call, but at a high level, a host purchased a property, created more bedrooms, brought in about $250K. So his investment was $250K. And then after all of his expenses, he brought in over $35K per year. So pretty good return on investment pretty quickly. I will highlight a few things. The host does pay the utilities because the members are choosing a room with an all-inclusive weekly price. Padsplit charges a 12% platform fee. That's the only fee a host ever pays to Padsplit. It's only paid to us once your property is generating revenue. And then these other expenses too. And if you want to get more into this, we'll set up a call separately and we'll get really into the weeds. Another cool thing about Padsplit is the vacancy and the turn cost compared to a traditional rental. So in a traditional rental, someone stays for a year or two, that's great, but then they move out, you have to replace the carpet, paint, advertise, meet people for showings, call references, run background checks. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. In a Padsplit, even if the person in room 1 has saved up enough money to move on to their own apartment, you're still going to be getting income on rooms 2 through 7. Also, it's pretty quick to get that room back available on the market. The property manager goes to the home, throws away anything the member left behind, Swiffers the floor, replaces the mattress cover, and then the room can be reactivated. Hosts like you guys set your weekly price. We make suggestions, you make decisions. Same thing with the move-in fee. Members pay a non-refundable move-in fee that is intended to cover the cost of this turn when they move out. Most of the property managers in our network are turning the rooms within 3 days after the person leaves. And like we were talking about before, anywhere from 3 to 10 days, most likely until that room gets rebooked again. Next, just kind of want to go through who does what, because I know I've said a few things like the property manager. Is Padsplit the property manager? We are not. The way to think about it is Padsplit manages the members or the people in your home. And then the property manager, which could be you as the investor or a third-party property manager that you hire, are responsible for everything at the property. So the hosts are going to make sure the rooms are ready for move-in. They're going to manage communications about the property. So if someone shows up on move-in day and they can't figure out how to, open the door, the property manager is going to say, lift the handle to the left or to the right. And then also any sort of proactive and reactive maintenance at the property, including things like lawn care, room turns, and the recommended monthly inspections. In contrast, we're going to do most of the remote general stuff. So we're going to do all of your marketing, all of the background checks, everything like that. We also handle collections. So that's done through our system. And you as the investor always have insight to know exactly, per room, what's come in this month. But we're the ones calling to say, hey, do you need to change the debit card on file? Hey, do you need to be referred to our staffing agencies, any partners, anything like that? And then Padsplit also handles the member-to-member issues. So Eric in room 1 ate my peanut butter, or Tiffany's playing her music too loud, or anything that might be going on at the property. This sort of behavioral comes to Padsplit. So I really hope you're amped and want to be an investor on our platform, because we really do help people, double their returns. But if you're thinking, I'm not ready to be a host, but I am a vendor, like any of the things I rattled off, realtor, contractor, property manager, lender, photographer, insurance provider, we have a vendor network and we're always looking for more partners. So this would be another, thing to reach out to me about. Hey, Blake, I'm a contractor in Orlando, Florida, and I really would like to work with Padsplit. I can introduce you to my teammates that can help you get into our vendor network. Or maybe you're thinking, I don't have a property that's ready today, but my colleague has a perfect spot. We have a really great referral program. We like to say it's the easiest $1,000 you'll ever make. Essentially, if you have investor friends, family that you think have properties that could be a fit already or looking to purchase a new investment strategy or something, if you introduce them to me via email, you'll just say, hey, Blake, this is, I was on Eric's podcast. I heard you speak. This is my brother. He wants to deploy some capital. I'll walk your brother or whoever the case would be through our whole process. And then when he activates a home with at least 5 rooms in one of our 9 active markets, the following month, we'll issue you a $1,000 Visa gift card. So would love to have you guys as a host. Would love to have you as a vendor and also as a referral partner. There you go. And would love to hear, any questions that you guys have.
All right. So first of all, what a great presentation and what a great getting into what does it look like. And as a host, Tiffany, my wife, and I, we have been hosts for almost 4 years now. Well, 3.5. And we have just seen the facility of everything improve. We have seen getting like on our side, like acquiring the property, setting up the property, all of that stuff has gotten easier. And then on the Padsplit side of things, like when we first joined y'all, they're still figuring things out here and there. And it's just gotten so good on, we need help doing this, or I need help talking to this tenant. And they just have just a plethora of resources that help you. Right. So I want to do some questions here, and then I've got a little thing I'm going to show as well. So the first question we have is, when looking for a property, how can I be sure that the property can legally become a Padsplit?
That's a great question. So at a high level, Padsplit only operates in markets that we feel like we can operate in. So, we're not in California, we're not in New York City that are just super difficult markets for landlords. We'd love to be maybe one day. But at a high level, it's thinking about where you are, and that's the kind of thing you should consult with me on. So for example, we have homes in Jacksonville, Florida, but Jacksonville Beach is a market that we felt like the way that their kind of rules are written, we didn't feel comfortable operating in Jacksonville Beach. So when it comes to, I'd love to know kind of what market you're in, but like when it comes to, for example, the city of Atlanta, what their rules say, the way they define family is up to 6 unrelated parties plus 4 boarders, plus an unlimited number of domestic servants and watchmen. So Padsplit reads that as 6 unrelated parties plus 4, or 6 unrelated parties plus 4 boarders. So we read that as a 10-bedroom. And we've spoken with the mayor's office in the city of Atlanta to be confident that a well-run home with, a 10 rooms or less in the city of Atlanta can operate legally. So it does just kind of depend on area. We also have 2 full-time attorneys that are always sort of staying abreast of issues, making sure that, educating me and my teammates to say, like, Jacksonville Beach, like, we don't feel good about, but here are the parts of Jacksonville we feel great about.
Yeah. Awesome answer. And I will say this is, when we buy a property that we want it to become a Padsplit, and we're in a market that we're not sure if it's going to work with code enforcement, or we're not sure it's going to, pass the standards, what we do is we buy it going into the assumption of Padsplit may not work. It has to be able to make money as a single family rental as well. And so when we go into it, we buy it with the assumption that our rent income is going to be based on single family home. Can it work? And if it works, we'll buy it. And when we go and put up temporary walls and stuff like that, and I'm going to show you how we do some planning on that part. But when we put up those temporary walls, we make sure that we make sure that they can come down easily, and we can convert that home right back over. Here is another awesome question. Who takes care of the evictions?
That's a good question. So to answer you directly, it's the property manager, but let me provide a little more context. So almost all evictions at Padsplit are due to collections. We have a collections team that as soon as you're $1 late, we're calling to see how we can help you get on top of it. Once a member's balance exceeds $300, which is less than 2 weeks dues in most of our markets, because in Atlanta, for example, the average room price is $167 per week. So very early, or like it's not like a whole month goes by without getting the revenue. Once someone is at $300, they're put on financial probation, and they have 48 hours to get their balance under $300. If they do, they stay. If they don't, then they're terminated. The property manager goes and turns the room. In almost all cases, the person is already gone. If the person is there, the property manager who's been trained by our team knows to sort of how to navigate the conversation to try to get the person to leave, with the balance, and explaining, if you leave today, you can always come, you can pay back this host what you owe them when you're back on your feet, and you can move into another pad split. Mm-hmm. Less than 4% of the time, so not 4% of homes, but 4% of members, an eviction does have to be filed. If an eviction has to be filed, that becomes the responsibility of the property manager because it requires physically going to the property. And that's kind of where one of the pad split doesn't go to the property. Before COVID, we never had a single eviction. Unfortunately, with COVID, we have had some, so it's under 4%. A few things to just kind of that I think mitigate the risk is that you could have an eviction in any rental. In a pad split, if you have one, and you have a 7-bedroom house, it's 1 out of the 7 rooms that you're missing out on the revenue of. So you're still getting 84% of your revenue or whatever the math is versus getting nothing in a traditional rental. Also, the point of intervention being a $300 cutoff is not a whole month's due rent. It's not 2 months rent before you're having to move. Third, the members pay an all-inclusive weekly price. And I think that that's really helpful because they don't have any surprises and know exactly what to expect. Members are encouraged to line up their payday at Padsplit on the same day they get paid, at their job. And so I think while there is risk, there's risk in all real estate, and it's much lower in a Padsplit than I would say in a traditional rental.
That's a great question. I do have experience with an eviction with Padsplit, and I will say it was the easiest eviction I've ever done in my life. And you might be asking, well, when you go to court and you talk to the judge, what is the judge going to say? You're not the landlord at that point, you're master leasing it to Padsplit. How do they answer that? Well, I will say this: in the county that I'm at, the judge just saw the lease that this member is responsible for this amount of rent. They are back. They're not due. I am the owner of the contract that I have signed with Padsplit. So I am the tier above. So they respected that level of ownership, and I was able to do that eviction. And even still, that conversation with that member was not difficult. It was, hey, you're late and you got to get out. And usually they're in a spot, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. And of the evictions that I've done 2 with Padsplit. And of those evictions, it was very amicable. We were able to work out a payment plan. And then we turned that payment plan and said, Padsplit, hey, here's their payment plan. Here's what they're going to do. And we ended up not having to actually formally get them out. What we did was we went through the dispo process and then got them on a payment plan, and then they got caught back up. And Padsplit has gotten really good at making sure if members are behind and they do get put into that eviction status, that you as the host, you do have a lot of free reign to work with that member as you need to. Because in the real estate business, we're not in the business of having empty homes. That is not our business. Our business is to take care of the tenants and make sure they have a place to stay. And if they're in a situation where they're in between jobs or they had a big health thing come up, you have the ability to take care of that. And if you're burnt out, you're a burnout real estate investor, and you just are tired of hearing the sob story, you have every ability to take them to court, go through eviction status, do your dispo, get that right of possession, and get them out. And it's just, Padsplit does a really good job of taking care of you. And to speak to what Blake was saying, and if you have a 4, 5, 6, 7 bedroom house, you're only missing out on 1 bedroom's income during that process. I will say, if you do something for 1 member and you give leeway to 1 member, the people in that house talk. So you're going to want to be very careful on how you're setting the precedent on rent. Because if you work with that 1 member and say, well, we'll give you, 4 months to get caught back up. That's too long, in my opinion. That's too long. You say, hey, buddy, you got 4 weeks. And if you're not caught back up, we're going through the eviction process. We're going to court. We're going to work out that payment plan, but I'm going to get that paperwork filed to where I can get you out. That way, if you don't follow up to it, if you don't stand up to what you're saying you're going to do, I can get you out. So you just want to make sure you're setting the right precedents when you're talking to members who are in an eviction status.
Yeah, everything he said. We also mentioned there's a company called Isusu, ESUSU. They're like a company that's like trying to make credit more equitable. They're who we do our weekly every week when the member's paying on time, when we're submitting those on time payments, it's to this company, Isusu. Isusu also does micro loans for Padsplit members at no interest for $1,000. And that is another way that we can sort of help members if they're just in a rough patch. And yeah, I mean, my dad manages some apartments that are very nice, and he has his rate of default is higher than ours. And I think for kind of this population, maintaining a 97% collections rate is pretty good.
Absolutely. So I want to move over to one thing that I do, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a screen here, and you'll see here, this is a planning software that I use when we take on a Padsplit, and it's called Dream Plan Home Design. I don't know how much it costs. It's relatively cheap, I know, if it costs anything. But what I do is I go on the tax assessor's office and I find the exact measurements of the house. And then when I'm in my due diligence, I take measurements of every room. And then I come back here and I build it out. And I say, okay, here's how I'm finding the property. And when I found this property, there's a carport here, and then there was laundry in the back of the carport, and then you'd come into the house here or here. So there were kind of two front doors. And you would come in here and there'd be a small kitchen and a dining room. And then there was this weird room right here that was kind of a pass through that wasn't being used as a bedroom. It's just like a playroom or maybe a formal dining room. And then over here was the living room. And then back here were the two bedrooms. So we bought this house as a 2, 1.5. There was a full bath in the hallway here, and there was a half bath in the master bedroom. And so I go in here, and the reason I build it in here is to make sure I have dimensions. And I know that my dimensions are going to work. So Blake, can you help me out here? What is the minimum bedroom size that Padsplit requires?
80 square feet, and then no wall shorter than 7.5 feet.
Okay. So when building it in something like this, you can get those measurements down. Now, I'm not going to go through how I take the measurements in here. You can get this, but you can click on that measure tool and you can measure from, here to here and say, oh, that's 8 feet from there to there. But just know that you can do something like that in this program. So I build it out and say, well, we found it as a 2, 1.5. What is the first thing we're going to do? Like Blake said, what we did was we extended this bathroom over and we made it a full bath. So we pushed this wall over and put a shower in here and now made this an ensuite. That is one of the most effective things you can do, because now you can charge more for that bedroom. And so that was the first thing we did. More. Say that again?
About 50% more.
Right. Yeah. 50% more. So if I was going to charge $150 for this bedroom, I can now charge possibly $225 for this bedroom now. So, and I will give you exact numbers on what we're renting this house out for with Padsplit. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize this space. We don't want our common spaces with couches and stuff. That invites unwanted guests to sleep over. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make this living room a bedroom. So I put this little half wall here just to make this front door not accessible into this bedroom. So I put a temporary wall up here, and then I added a bedroom there. And the next thing I did was I put a wall up in this hallway, and I made this a bedroom as well. So I just took this 2, 1.5 into a 4-bedroom income stream. So this property right here, our bedrooms are rented out so this one right here is $160 a week. This room right here is $170. This room right here is $195 for this ensuite. And then this room right here is $155. You might be asking, well, what does that actually look like for earnings? And I will say this: in February, this property as a standard straight rental would only bring in about $1,200 a month, and that is gross. So what did it bring in as a Padsplit? In February, it brought in $2,900 gross. So, I mean, that's just real world example of the power of Padsplit. And when you can do this over and over, and I could have very well done my best to create something like this. I could have brought this over here and brought this wall even closer there and did another one. Let's see if I can. I don't remember how to do this, but I could have essentially done another bedroom right here and taken this front door and turned it into a non-entry door. And I could have made this a 5-bedroom. Now, the reason I didn't do that is we were kind of in a newer market, and I didn't want to put in even more money into it. But I can still go over to this house and move that wall, right? I could still go over and move that wall and add another bedroom. Now, that is going to put a little strain on the house because it would mean that there would be 4 bedrooms to this 1 bathroom. And that is where I believe Padsplit recommends you cut off 4-1. So that is where I would maximize the potential of this property.
Yeah, 3-1, 4-1 is the most that you can have sharing 1 bath. But yeah, 3-1, 4-1. We don't see a big difference in tenure. But like if the room was a lot smaller, maybe you get a little bit less per week, but you have an extra room. So there's usually multiple avenues and multiple ways to split up a house, and you kind of weigh the pros and the cons of each.
Right. We have another great question here. And Blake, I'm not sure if this is going to be for you or for me, but what do you, I can answer this. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Is there a way to do this through an IRA or a 401k?
So that I'm not sure about. I would need to follow up.
Mm-hmm.
I can follow up on that.
So here's the answer I would give you. You absolutely can do this. It's just that you cannot touch it. So if you buy this into your 401k or your IRA, you just want to make sure that you are not touching that property in any way. You cannot benefit actively from that, which means you can't manage it yourself. You can't work on it yourself. So you would hire someone to master lease it from you, and then they give it to Padsplit. That way they're dealing with the day-to-day things with that Padsplit. So the room turns, you can't do it. If it comes to evictions, you can't do it. You can't do any of that stuff. So just find a way to have an intermediary serve you for that investment account. That's a great question.
Good to know. I learned something new.
Yeah, I mean, and there are so many ways to be successful in this Padsplit space. And that's another way to do it. You can grow your retirement account with Padsplit. Just find you an intermediary. And if you're looking for someone to run your Padsplit, they're going to want some income from it. So you're not going to benefit wholly from what the income's going to bring in. But, maybe they're going to charge you $500 a month and your cash flow was looking like $1,000 a month. So your retirement account would grow $500 a month and your intermediary would grow $500 a month. Are there intermediaries on the vendor list? I'm sure, and I'm using intermediaries as a word just to fill in the space. I'm not sure if you would even call it that. You just need someone that would be willing to run your Padsplit for you.
Yeah, so we do have property managers that would allow investors to be totally passive, and they can see the income report. They can have access to our dashboard, but as far as clogged toilets, room turns, Wi-Fi is too slow, Johnny ate my peanut butter, you can be totally removed from all of that.
Yeah. And where can they find that vendor list?
Great question. So it's on our website. I will drop a link in the chat. So in a house with 4 bedrooms, housing 8 adults. Okay, so really, before I do that, to answer the question about a 4-bedroom house housing 8 adults, every room is single adults only. So you're never going to have couples. You're never going to have an adult with a child. It's just single adults. And then it's exactly right. So the closer you are to public transit, the less number of cars you need to have. Or less need of space you need to have for cars. So we have homes that are, half a mile to a bus stop that are 8 bedrooms and only 3 people have cars because the other 5 are walking to the bus or their friend is picking them up or whatever the case may be. When you get to homes that are further away from public transit, we have a 10-bedroom home in the middle of Southwest Atlanta. Only 3 people have cars. The other 7 are getting on the bus or walking or getting their friend to pick them up. As you get further out from the city or further out from places of transit, you're probably not going to have a 10-bedroom house. Maybe you have a 4-bedroom house like Eric or a 5-bedroom, and you have space for maybe 3 or 4 of the cars. Also, when homes have parking around the back of the house, that's a really nice opportunity too, because then it's not disturbing the neighbors. When you create a listing on our site, you can say, this is an 8-bedroom house. There is space for 2 off-street and 2 on-street parking spaces, like, for example. And then when the people are staying in the home, when they're registering, when they're signing up, they have to indicate if they have a car. And if the car allowance for a property has been reached, when someone goes to book that next room, our system is going to say, like, you're welcome to book a room in this property, but confirm that you're not bringing a car because the car maximum has been reached. Sometimes people will widen the driveway with gravel. There's a lot of ways. And if you like have a specific property, I'll provide a whole portfolio analysis, including kind of thoughts on parking. If we have an area that we're interested in buying a pad split, does pad split see if the area will work? So we have, for starters, I think the best thing to do would be to email me, and it's just blake@padsplit.com, and I can provide some analysis on the property. And then either I can meet you at the property, or I can hook you up with a contractor to walk the property and give you some feedback, like move this wall, put a door there, whatever. Yeah, being in the field is my favorite part of my job. So please bring me into the field.
I have a property down in LaGrange where we have 7 bedrooms over the span of, there's a main house and there's a carriage house. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some pictures from this house. So you'll see here that, and we're just going to go through these pictures. This seems just like a standard brick ranch. And what we did was, this was a 2-1 house when we bought it, and we converted it to a regular rental. And we made it a 3-bedroom, 2-bath as a regular rental. And then beside the house was this carriage house, like a detached garage. And what we did was we went in and renovated that upstairs, and it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And I'm just going to show you all some pictures from the inside, how we set it up, these bedrooms. This is what the inside of a pad split can look like. This is not what I would consider like the A+ pad split rooms. These are what I would consider B- or so rooms, but they all still produce income. We get a bed, we get a wardrobe. You see up in here that we have a place for them to put their clothes. That's what you want. If you don't have a closet, you want a wardrobe or a place for them to put their clothes. We have a nightstand, and we have a lamp and a piece of artwork. So, and you'll see throughout, it's just, they're pretty barren. And that's what you want. You want a blank slate for people to move into and make their own. And so these are the bedrooms, and these are the 2 bathrooms. There's the kitchen from the house, and we have a small place for them to eat if they want to sit down and eat. And that we do have laundry service available in the house there. There's the 2nd bedroom. And then we go into the apartment upstairs. There's just a small living room where all we have in that living room is a table for them to sit at. And then we have the 2 bedrooms for them. And what I do to show that is, in the front part of that property, there was just this skinny little drive that went down. We had a company come in and grade the whole driveway, and we have parking for up to 10 cars if we ever want to expand our room number there. And and there's never any issues. The biggest thing that I have seen in the past 4 years on problems with pad splits is garbage and parking. Those are 2 of the biggest concerns that I usually see, are garbage and parking. And what you want to make sure is, if you have more than 5 people in that house, go and get you 2 cans, get you 2 trash cans out front. And we even had a property not too long ago where there were 8 bedrooms in the house, and we just got a small dumpster put on the property, and it was equivalent to 3 cans, and we never had a trash issue there. And it was a lot of parking there as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the truth is, as far as Metro Atlanta, it has seemed to work everywhere. When I started in 2019, we had this rule that every home had to be within half a mile of MARTA, which is the bus system, the bus transit system here. And we had an investor with properties in Gwinnett County, which is kind of in the northeast part of Metro Atlanta, saying he thought that was a silly rule, and that he knew that in his part of the city, housing was needed. So he's actually the profile I was going to pull up. He now has 16 homes, all but one of them are in Gwinnett County, and he has made a very nice earnings. We have homes in Noonan. We have homes in Marietta. We have homes in Douglasville, Conyers, Covington. So we grow and grow and grow. And like, the reality is, minimum wage in Georgia is $7.25, and studio apartments are at least $1,200. So you could make almost 3 times the minimum wage and still not get approved for most, like, basically anything where you'd want to live. So if you've got a Walmart, if you've got a Chick-fil-A, you've got a hospital, you can fill a house.
Yep.
So I'm Lilburn Property Management. That's the company we're going to talk about. It says 14. I thought it was 16. So we'll see in a second. So he's got 14 homes. He gets all these notices about move-ins and move out. So he's got 98 active rooms, 95 are occupied, and 1 is listed. 1 has a pending move-in, 3, someone just moved out, he needs to turn the room, and then 6, he has inactive because he's doing a repair on one house. So if we look at what's come in, it is the first of the month. Like literally already $8,000 has come in. If we want to see what did he do in 2022, keeping in mind that some of the properties he has were added during the year in 2022. So not all the properties have been active the whole year, but he brought in over $800K last year on his pad splits. And then kind of speaking back to his occupancy, I mean, all of his properties except for 1 are not they're not by where there's metro area. So he's got Snellville, he's got Lilburn, he's got Norcross. And they're all doing really well. He has also, I think that is cool, is that you can see that he has bookings approved where people pass the pad split screening, and then he can provide extra screening and decide if he wants to let the person in his house or not. Mm-hmm. He's got this nice little wrench icon, which is where members send their maintenance tickets. They come in here. He can communicate with them, drag them through to let people know the status of what's going on. He's got, he can see info on his members, so he can sort by the city and by property and by financial status. Keys are basically when they, you move in with 3 keys. When you break a rule, you lose a key. When you break the 3rd rule, you're out. I wouldn't worry about these balances because for most people, Friday is their payday, which means today the invoice is generated on Wednesday. It's not actually due until Friday. So I'm sure, I wouldn't be concerned that 2 people show. I'm sure that time to pay means the invoice has been generated, but it's not actually due yet. So there's all kinds of great resources in here. Some other great tools for you guys that you have access to if you just sign up on padsplit.com. This kind of speaks to, does this area work for Padsplit? You can come into this map. Blue dots are cities we're active in today. Gray dots are ones we're moving into, later this year. So you just kind of for example, click into Atlanta and then drill in enough to where the screen turns blue like this. And then you can literally sort. So if your property is in, let's say, College Park, you can put in the zip code and it'll tell you how many rooms we have, what the average weekly price is, and the occupancy. So if the home happened to be in College Park, I think you could feel very good about there being demand. 96%. We have 4,200 bedrooms across Metro Atlanta. We're 92% full today. So even in a zip code that has this many rooms, we're still outperforming our Metro Atlanta average. So this is a really great tool, kind of get started. We also break out every single thing you need. So when Eric was talking about the bed and the mattress and everything is right here on this guideline sheet. If you want to take the guesswork out of it, we literally have an Amazon and Home Depot gift and shopping list where it's okay, say 7 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It's going to tell you 1 washer, 1 dryer, of course, but then it's going to take into account 1 dining set. But then in the bedroom section, it'll update 7 pieces of artwork, 7 bed frames, 7 nightstands, really taking the guesswork out. Some hosts use the shopping list. That's great. Some hosts go to Home Goods and IKEA. It's up to you. You don't have to have this clothing storage. You just need to have a clothing storage. That vendor network that I was talking about a little bit earlier, this is where you find that. So let's say you have a property we meet. I think it's great for Padsplit and you just need to put up some walls. You could come in here and do this and say, hey, Tyler, saw you on the Padsplit website. I own 123 Main Street. Can you come by and give me a bid? Kind of thing. So there's a lot of really great resources here. And yeah, if we set up a call, one of the things we'll do is we'll kind of walk through all the, everything that is available so that what resources are there.
All right. I like that. If you are interested in setting up a call with someone at Padsplit, I am putting in a link into the into the chat. If you click on that, you're going to fill out some information, and I'm pretty sure that will go directly to Blake, and you will be able to set up a call with her.
Yep. And then to the question on the living room. Generally speaking, you're not going to have a living room in the pad split because you'll have converted that to create another bedroom so that you can add on average $700 to your top line every month. As far as furniture goes, for like the dining room, headboards, those kinds of things, never fabric, because what you want to think about is the long-term durability. So if you have a dining set and you have tan colored cushions on the chairs, and then someone spills some soda, it's going to be really hard to get that clean. So we would recommend wood, metal, same thing with the headboard, because we're thinking about, you want to be able to like easily refresh and sanitize the room when someone does move out. And that's not super common. The average stay is 9.5 months. You don't want to see that someone like was drinking coffee in bed and like spilt coffee on the headboard, and now you have the stained coffee headboard, and someone new is going to move in and see like something stained. So no living room, no couches, but as far as the furniture, you do have wood, metal. That's the way I would go.
Absolutely. And what we do is we don't have the exact same kind of furniture in every property. We guide our furniture is guided on how nice the property is. So if we have a class A property, we're not going to go put in the metal frame beds with the low end mattresses with the low end covers and the low end nightstand and all that. We're going to go and buy the nicer level stuff with a headboard and with a footboard that are wood or metal. And we're going to get a nicer nightstand and a nicer lamp. We might even put 2 lamps in the room. So I would say that you're going to guide what level of furniture you're putting in with what kind of property it is. So if you have one that's in a rough part of town, or that the finish levels within the house, like you have Formica countertops and not granite. If you have granite countertops, that means, you're probably in a nicer level of home. So just don't spend too much money on the furnishings, but also buy something that's durable and that's going to last and that is going to make the members comfortable. All right. Another question here. Do you allow members to put up artwork? In my pad splits, I put up the artwork, and I actually name my rooms based on the artwork. So I will go to like Hobby Lobby, not Hobby Lobby. It's like used to be called Garden Ridge back in the day, but it's called At Home. It's called At Home. And I go to At Home and I buy, 15 pieces of artwork that are random sizes, random shapes, random everything. And I go hang them up in the room and say, okay, that is now the unicorn room or that is now the bulldog room. And that's how that's how I gauge it. But Blake, you can answer.
Yeah. I don't want to say that's never happened, but it's not something that usually people are coming with. Usually people are coming with a suitcase or two. They know that their room is just a place for them. Their place it's safe and it's clean and it's functional and they can like lay their head to sleep. What we do see is people sometimes bring their own TV, which is fine. I mean, I wouldn't provide them as the host, but if people do bring their TV and play their Xbox or whatever, some rooms do have desks, which is, again, we don't want members bringing furniture. So if you have a big room, potentially putting a desk in the room could get you $5 extra per week or something. Mm-hmm. We don't want people bringing their own furniture that's like heavy, like a desk, a TV, whatever. As far as the artwork, like I would hope that they're not like putting holes in the walls, but if, so the members pay a non-refundable move-in fee, it's $150, usually costs about $75 to turn the room. So in the event you got to like patch a hole or something, you have a little extra cushion, not to mention damage can be passed through. So, if you're doing your monthly inspection or the property manager is doing their monthly inspection where they are, they're not like going through the members' stuff, but they are opening the doors to the bedrooms. If they see that someone has put like, I don't know, 1 million pieces of artwork up, that could be a conversation like, hey, you did hang a lot. I think it looks great. Love your style, but I'm going to go ahead and assess you a $50 fine because I'm going to have to patch it up when they move. But usually people aren't bringing their own artwork. And then to Eric's point, I would go to Home Goods, buy whatever is on sale that's like not polarizing or offensive in some way. Like, oh, it's a picture of a giraffe. Cool. Oh, it's a picture of a bowl of fruit. Wonderful.
Right. And just to that effect of don't let them bring their own furniture. I did have somebody get a piece of furniture from like Aaron's rental furniture. and they had it delivered, whatnot, set up. I didn't know about it until the member had moved out, because I went to the house to turn the room, and there was a sign on the door saying, we need to collect this, and you're in collections for this piece of furniture. And they kept going to the house trying to pick up this, and it's like, he don't live here no more. All right, next question.
So do we try? We don't try. So historically with Padsplit, if someone has passed a background check and has the income to afford a room, they can book the room and move on. We now, which I'll saw briefly with that host profile, is the ability to toggle on member approvals. If you did want to have a house that's only men or only women, where we stand right now is that if you put that clearly in the listing, you can do that. That said, when a member applies for a room, you have 24 hours to approve or reject them. And if you don't reject them in that time, they are automatically approved. So if you are trying to have an all gender house, just kind of know that is your sort of timeline, that, if you're trying to have women only and a Jimmy applies, if 24 hours go by and you don't reject Jimmy, he is going to be allowed to move in.
Right. Yeah. And I will say this, of our homes, and we've had, several dozen members move in and out and that are staying with us now. We have 30 rooms right now. And of those 30 rooms, we only have 2 females. And I'm not sure if that's common across the
No, it's not. That's interesting. It's slightly, I think it's like 58% women.
Wow.
For our last we do quarterly surveys, and for our last survey, it was like 58% women or something. Right.
But of those 2 women that are staying in 2 different properties, there have never been any issues with that I can see, but I also don't see all of the issues within the house. But it has never been brought to my attention that a woman or a man within a home has felt uncomfortable or anything of that nature. So I do find that I like having women in my pad splits, because they are the first to file a little complaint within the saying and say, these folks are nasty and they need to clean. And then we are brought to attention of, whoa, people are not keeping up with their stuff. Let's go do an inspection and figure out, why is this property dirty? And we can mitigate that by us having, those whistleblowers within the house.
Yeah. And I'll say cleanliness is like the biggest complaint we hear. And I'll go back to that. First, I'll say we do have a 24/7 member support center. So if someone is making someone else uncomfortable, there's a lot of ways that someone can report it, including a phone call to our team that will get answered 24/7. On the cleanliness, when you first start a home, you're going to be required to provide certain cleaning supplies. And then what most hosts do is send in a monthly cleaning service for common areas only. So common bathrooms, the kitchen, and the hallway, but never inside of someone's bedroom. The other thing that I've seen some hosts do that I think is successful is set up like a $50 or $60 recurring order with Amazon or Walmart or something to just have cleaning supplies delivered to the home. Because the reality is, a lot of our members, while they are saving money in a pad split, they're still very price sensitive and cost sensitive. Things like gas going up 15 cents a gallon really can impact people a lot. So if someone's choosing between buying new sponges for the kitchen for everyone to use, or their chicken and broccoli and rice for the week, people are going to choose their own food, which is totally human nature. But if the stuff is provided, it shows that the host really cares, which goes a long way. But 2, like, if there are clean sponges, if there is a fresh thing, a bottle of Lysol, if there are fresh Clorox wipes, Swiffer pads, whatever, people are going to use them. So my suggestion is to set up a monthly cleaning service and then a monthly replenishment of supplies.
Yeah. So what we have done in our business is we have an Amazon subscribe and save that automatically refill every, I think it's 8 weeks that we refill the sponges, and they get a box of sponges every 8 weeks, and they get Febreze spray and they get Lysol spray. And we do have every quarter, once a quarter, we have a cleaning service go and clean the common areas of the home. So
exactly.
Now, and with the higher income of pad splits, that is the cost of doing business within this realm. And it's going to make what it does is it keeps the people in the home longer, and it makes sure that the people are happy and that they stay and that they talk good about your property to others. And when you open another property, that person's going to be like, oh, well, they're opening one down the street. I've got friends that love, where I'm at, and you can get your own right down the street. So it's going to help you by spending money to keep it nice.
Yeah. I'd like to say, like, usually your expenses for a pad split are about, and just to be total, and every house is different, and please use me to run some analysis, but at a high, like roughly speaking, your expenses with pad split are probably going to be about 2.5 times higher than doing a traditional rental because of the things like a lawn care, because of the things like paying the pad split fee. But when the income can offset that, it's more than worth it. So like in a home that would rent for $1,800 as a traditional rental, if you can bring in $5,000 for a pad split, who cares if your expenses are $2,300 or $2,100 compared to $700, because you're still left with so much more left over.
Exactly.
And the cleaners don't go into the individual rooms. So they're just cleaning the common areas only. So if you're lucky enough to be in one of the rooms, the private bathroom, the positive is that you have your own private bathroom, and the drawback is that you're cleaning it yourself because the cleaning service isn't going to enter any bedrooms.
Exactly. And that's going to be our last question for the day. We are at the top of the hour. Blake, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Investor Connect live, talking about pad splits. And listen, if you have more questions, this is not the end of the road. What you need to do is you need to go into that chat or go into the comments, click on Padsplit Referral Factory link, and set up a call with Blake. And I know Blake and have known her for years now. She will answer any question you got. And if she doesn't know the answer, she knows the people that do. So you need to be reaching out and setting up a time to meet with Blake.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you all for listening. Would love to meet you in person over video. I do 2 monthly meetups in person in Atlanta as well. So please hit me up, use this referral code, and just really grateful for the opportunity and hope to work with all of you.
Right on. And if you're just now joining this stream, know that it is going to be replayed back in the Investor Connect page. If you know anyone that might benefit from this information or that might be able to use Padsplit in their portfolio, send them to Investor Connect, have them join and come watch this presentation. We are immensely grateful for you joining us today. If you haven't already done so, we invite you to subscribe to our show. We understand that many of you tune in regularly, but perhaps haven't had the chance to hit that subscribe button yet. Don't worry, it's effortless. It takes about 3 seconds to follow or subscribe on your platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're enjoying the show. Your support is invaluable to us and has played a crucial role in the tremendous growth of our podcast. Together, we can launch this podcast to even greater heights.